I hated Adrian Westbrook before I ever met him. That probably sounds dramatic, but let me paint you the picture. You spend 4 years building a startup from nothing, living on ramen, maxing out credit cards, sleeping 3 hours a night in a cramped studio apartment where the heat doesn't work and the neighbors fight at 2 a.m. You sacrifice relationships, health, any semblance of a normal 20-something life. And just when your company is about to break through, just when all that suffering is about to mean something, some corporate shark comes circling, trying to swallow you whole. That shark was Adrian Westbrook, CEO of Westbrook Industries, and the absolute last person I wanted to see walking into my office on a Tuesday morning in October. Ms. Chen. His voice was deep, controlled, the kind of voice that was used to being obeyed. The kind of voice that probably made junior executives scramble and assistants trip over themselves. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I hadn't agreed to anything. My board had cornered me yesterday, practically staged an intervention in the conference room. Our CFO had shown me the numbers. Again. Our head of operations had talked about strategic opportunities. Our lead investor, Patricia Chen, no relation, though she liked to joke about it, had looked at me with those knowing eyes and said, "Sophia, pride won't keep the lights on." They weren't wrong. We needed capital or a partnership, and Westbrook Industries had both. They had infrastructure, distribution networks, relationships with every major client we'd been trying to court for years. They had everything we needed, and they wanted us. I looked up from my laptop, prepared to dislike everything about Adrian Westbrook, and okay, fine. He was gorgeous. Objectively, empirically, infuriatingly gorgeous. Tall, easily 6'2", with dark hair that was just slightly too long to be corporate standard, like he couldn't be bothered to care about rules that didn't matter. Sharp jawline that looked like it had been carved by someone who understood angles. Eyes the color of smoke and steel, gray with flecks of blue, intense and intelligent and currently fixed on me with unnerving focus. A charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car, tailored perfectly to broad shoulders and a lean frame that suggested he actually used the executive gym membership instead of just paying for it. He was 34 to my 22, and he looked at me like I was a particularly interesting problem he was about to solve. I hated him immediately. "Mr. Westbrook." I didn't stand, didn't offer my hand. Power Play 101, straight from the book on negotiating from a position of weakness. Never let them see you're intimidated. "You have 15 minutes. His mouth quirked. Not quite a smile, but close. Like he was amused. Like he'd seen this exact move 1,000 times before and found it endearing rather than threatening. That made me hate him more. "I'll only need 10, he said, and sat without being invited. He moved with the kind of casual confidence that came from never being told no, from growing up with money and power and doors that opened before you even reached for the handle. He crossed one ankle over his knee, somehow making the position look elegant rather than casual, and slid a leather folder across my desk. The folder was expensive. Of course it was. Probably Italian leather. Probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Westbrook Industries wants to acquire Technova," he said, direct and unapologetic. No preamble, no small talk, no pretense that this was anything other than a predator making an offer to its prey. "Not for sale." "You haven't looked at the offer." "Don't need to." I pushed the folder back across the desk, watched his eyes track the movement. I didn't build this company to hand it over to some corporate empire that'll strip it for parts and dissolve everything that made it special. I don't strip companies for parts, Ms. Chen. I make them better. By absorbing them. By erasing everything that made them unique. By turning them into just another subsidiary with a Westbrook Industries company stamped on the bottom of the logo. By giving them resources to reach their potential. He leaned forward, and I caught a hint of his cologne. Something dark and expensive and woody, with notes of bergamot and cedar. Entirely too distracting. "Your AI platform is brilliant, revolutionary even. The natural language processing algorithms you've developed are 3 years ahead of anyone else in the market. But you're underfunded, understaffed, and..." He paused, and there was something almost gentle in his expression, almost sympathetic. And 3 months away from running out of runway. 4 if you cut salaries again, which you've already done twice. My stomach dropped. How do you know that? I do my research, Miss Chen. Very thorough research. He pulled out his phone, swiped through something. You have 18 employees, down from 23 6 months ago. Your burn rate is approximately $280,000 per month. Your last funding round fell through when Chen Ventures pulled out. That was a mutual decision. And your remaining capital will last exactly 14 weeks unless you secure additional funding or significantly reduce operational costs. He looked up from his phone, and those smoke-colored eyes were entirely too knowing. You've pitched to 7 VC firms in the last 2 months. All of them passed. You have meetings scheduled with 3 more next week, but based on market conditions and your current valuation concerns, I'd estimate your chances of success at less than 15%. I wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him he was wrong. That he didn't know what he was talking about. That Technova was fine and we'd figure it out like we always did. But every word he'd said was true. I can give you everything you need, he continued. And his voice had dropped lower, more intimate, like we were sharing secrets instead of negotiating a business deal. Capital, infrastructure, distribution channels, access to clients who won't return your calls but take mine immediately. I can give you the resources to not just survive but dominate your market, to become what you've always wanted to be. In exchange for control. In exchange for partnership. I laughed, sharp, bitter. Partnership? Is that what you call it when you own 60%? I call it reality. His eyes held mine, and there was something intense in them. Something that made my pulse quicken in a way that had nothing to do with anger. You can hate me all you want, Ms. Chen. You can think I'm a corporate raider, a shark, whatever metaphor makes you feel better about your situation. But your company is drowning, and I'm offering you a lifeboat. Your choice is whether you take it or watch everything you've built sink into irrelevance. The worst part, the absolute worst part, was that he was right. Will Sophia choose to save her company or her pride? Their partnership is about to get complicated. Subscribe to watch the sparks fly. I'd been lying awake at night running the numbers. 3 months of capital, maybe 4. We'd already cut everything we could cut. My own salary was barely enough to cover rent and student loans. Half my team was working for equity instead of market rate compensation because they believed in what we were building. And our competitors, companies with deep pockets and established market positions, were gaining ground every day. Westbrook Industries had the reach, the resources, the infrastructure we desperately needed. They had relationships with Fortune 500 companies that wouldn't give us a meeting. They had distribution networks that had taken them 20 years to build. They had everything, and they wanted us. The question was, what was I willing to sacrifice to save my company? I want to propose an alternative, I heard myself say. Adrian's eyebrow lifted, just slightly, but enough to show I'd surprised him. I'm listening. A merger, not an acquisition. I leaned forward, matching his posture, refusing to be intimidated. 50-50 split. Equal ownership. Technova keeps its brand, its autonomy, its culture. We collaborate on strategy, but I maintain creative control of the platform and final say on product development. That's not how I do business. Then we don't have a deal, Mr. Westbrook. I held his gaze, refused to blink first. I'm not interested in being bought. If you want Technova's technology, if you want what we've built, then you partner with us as equals. Otherwise, I'll find another way. There is no other way. You've run out of options. Maybe, but I'd rather go down fighting than hand over my company to someone who sees it as just another acquisition. Silence stretched between us, thick with tension. He studied me like I was a chessboard, calculating moves I hadn't even considered yet. I could practically see his mind working. Analyzing probabilities, running scenarios. Finally, he smiled. A real smile this time, not the polite corporate version. It transformed his face, made him look younger, more human. dangerous in an entirely different way. You're either very brave or very foolish, Miss Chen. I've been called both, usually in the same sentence. I believe it. He stood, buttoned his jacket with practiced ease. The movement drew my attention to his hands. Strong, capable hands with long fingers. The kind of hands that looked like they knew exactly what they were doing. I'll consider your counteroffer, but Miss Chen... He paused at the door, looked back at me with those smoke-colored eyes that seemed to see straight through every defense I'd carefully constructed. If we do this, if we merge our companies, you and I will be working very closely together. Every day, every decision, every late night and early morning. Are you prepared for that? The way he said it, low, almost intimate, with emphasis on closely, sent a shiver down my spine that I absolutely refused to acknowledge. I can handle it if you can, Mr. Westbrook. His smile was slow, dangerous, full of promise and challenge. I look forward to finding out. Then he was gone, leaving nothing but the scent of his cologne and the unsettling feeling that I'd just made a deal with the devil, and possibly enjoyed it. My best friend Maya called that night while I was stress-eating lo mein straight from the container and staring at my laptop. "Tell me you didn't agree to anything," she said without preamble. "Hello to you too." "Sophia, tell me." I sighed, set down the container. I didn't agree to anything. I countered with a merger proposal. 50-50 split, equal partnership. Silence. Then, "You proposed a merger to Adrian Westbrook." "Yes. Adrian Westbrook, who's famous for hostile takeovers and aggressive acquisition strategies." "That's the one." "And you think he'll actually agree to equal partnership?" "He said he'd consider it." I rubbed my temples, felt a headache building behind my eyes. "Maya, we're out of options. You know that. I know that. My board definitely knows that. If I don't do something soon..." "I know." Her voice softened. I worry about you. This guy has a reputation for being a shark in business. I can handle sharks." "That's not what I meant." A pause. "Soph," I looked him up. "Adrian Westbrook isn't just successful, well, he's also ridiculously hot. And there are rumors about him and his business partners. Rumors about him mixing business with pleasure." My stomach did something complicated. "I'm not interested in Adrian Westbrook romantically, if that's what you're implying. I'm just saying, be careful. You're 22. He's 34, he's powerful and charismatic and probably very good at getting what he wants. What he wants is my company's technology. That's it. If you say so." "I do say so." But after we hung up, I found myself Googling him. Found photos from tech conferences, charity galas, industry events. Found articles about his meteoric rise in the tech world, how he'd built Westbrook Industries from a small software company into a multi-billion-dollar empire in 12 years. Found photos of him with beautiful women at various events. Always a different woman. Never the same one twice. And found myself wondering what it would be like to be looked at by Adrian Westbrook the way he looked at the camera. Intense. Focused. Like nothing else existed in that moment. Then I closed my laptop, drank a glass of wine, and told myself to get it together. This was business. Just business. Nothing more. Adrian Westbrook called me himself 3 days later. Not his assistant, not his lawyer. Him, directly, at 7 in the morning while I was still in my pajamas drinking my first coffee of the day. "I accept your terms," he said without preamble. I nearly dropped my mug. "What?" "The merger. 50-50 split, equal partnership, you maintain creative control. I accept." "Just like that?" "Just like that." I could hear something in the background. Traffic sounds, maybe. Was he calling from a car? "Though I have one condition." Of course he did. "What condition?" "You and I meet daily for the first 6 months. Strategy sessions, just the two of us, to ensure we're aligned on vision and execution. 1 hour minimum, every day. That's, I stopped, processed. That's a lot of FaceTime. Partnership requires communication, Ms. Chen, and I find that the most productive partnerships are built on personal connection, not just email chains and conference calls. There was something in his voice, something I couldn't quite identify. Challenge, maybe, or curiosity. Fine, I said. Daily meetings, but I choose half the locations. Deal. My lawyers will send over the paperwork today. Plan on announcing the merger next Monday. A pause. And Ms. Chen? Yes? Call me Adrian. If we're going to be partners, we should probably be on a first-name basis. Then you should call me Sophia. Sophia. The way he said it, low, warm, like he was tasting my name, made my skin prickle. I look forward to working with you. He hung up before I could respond. The next week was chaos. Lawyers, contracts, due diligence, press releases, meetings with the board, with investors, with key employees who were understandably nervous about what a merger meant for their jobs. I barely slept. Lived on coffee and adrenaline and the growing realization that I'd just tied my company's fate to Adrian Westbrook's. The merger was announced on a Monday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, Adrian had moved into the office next to mine. Not an office down the hall. Not on a different floor. Next door, with a connecting door that he left open, like he wanted to blur the boundaries between his space and mine. "Good morning, partner," he said, appearing in my doorway at 8 a.m. with 2 cups of coffee. I looked up from my laptop, suspicious. I'd been here since 6, working on the integration plan, and I definitely looked it. Hair in a messy bun, no makeup, wearing the same sweater I'd worn yesterday because I'd fallen asleep at my desk and hadn't gone home. "What's this?" I asked. "Coffee. Black, no sugar, extra shot of espresso. You had 3 cups yesterday in our strategy meeting, all prepared the same way. I'm observant." He set 1 cup on my desk, close enough that his fingers almost brushed mine, and I jerked my hand back like I'd been burned. If he noticed my reaction, he didn't show it. Just took a sip of his own coffee, leaned against my doorframe with casual elegance. He was wearing a navy suit today, with a white shirt unbuttoned at the collar. No tie. It should have looked unprofessional. Instead, it looked good. Really good. Like he'd just stepped out of a magazine spread about successful young CEOs. I took a sip of the coffee to give myself something to do. It was perfect. Exactly how I liked it. "We have the integration meeting in 20 minutes, he said. "I thought we should align on messaging first. Make sure we're presenting a united front." "Fine." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "But I'm leading the tech discussion." "Wouldn't dream of taking that from you." He sat, crossed 1 ankle over his knee, and I tried not to notice the way his pants pulled tight across his thighs. "Though I do want to discuss the product roadmap. There are some opportunities for expansion I think we should consider." "What kind of opportunities?" "Enterprise solutions. Your platform is incredible for small to mid-sized businesses, but with our infrastructure, we could scale to Fortune 500 clients. I have relationships with CTOs at 6 companies that would be perfect pilot partners." I leaned back, studied him. "You want to change our target market." "I want to expand it. There's a difference. Expansion means resources, development time, potentially compromising the user experience for smaller clients to accommodate enterprise needs. Not if we're strategic about it." He pulled out his phone, swiped to something, and slid it across the desk. "I had my team put together a preliminary analysis. We could develop an enterprise tier without affecting the core product. Different interface, same underlying technology." I picked up his phone, scrolled through the document. It was actually good, thoughtful, detailed. He'd clearly put significant time into this. "When did you do this analysis?" I asked. "Over the weekend." "You worked on this over the weekend." "I work most weekends." He shrugged. "I find I do my best thinking when the office is quiet." "Same." The admission slipped out before I could stop it. His eyes met mine and something passed between us. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. We might have more in common than you think, Sophia. The way he said my name, like it meant something, made my pulse quicken. Maybe, I said carefully, but that doesn't mean we'll always agree on strategy. I don't need you to always agree with me. I need you to push back when I'm wrong, challenge my assumptions, make me think differently. He leaned forward, and suddenly the desk between us felt like nothing. That's why I agreed to your terms. Because you're not afraid of me. Because you'll fight for what you believe is right. That's exactly the kind of partner I need. Partner? Right. This was about business, so why did the word feel loaded with something else? The integration meeting went smoothly. Too smoothly. Adrian was a natural presenter. Confident without being arrogant, clear without being condescending. He gave credit to the team, acknowledged concerns, painted a vision of the merger that made everyone excited instead of anxious, and he made sure to position me as his equal. Every time someone addressed him as the decision maker, he redirected to me. Sophia and I will discuss that. That's Sophia's area of expertise. I'll defer to my partner on the technical specifics. It should have felt performative. Instead, it felt genuine. After the meeting, my head of engineering, Marcus, pulled me aside. I like him, Marcus said, which was high praise. Marcus didn't like anyone. He actually understands the technology. Most executives in his position would be pure business, but he asked me about the neural network architecture, had intelligent questions. He's smart, I admitted, and hot. This from Priya, my head of design, who'd materialized beside us. I mean, objectively speaking, those eyes, that jaw, the way he... Priya, I'm just saying, if you have to be in daily meetings with someone, it could be worse. It could be someone who looks like our old CFO. Our old CFO had been 60, balding, and had a habit of chewing with his mouth open. Adrian's appearance is irrelevant, I said firmly. This is a professional partnership. Uh-huh, Priya grinned. Keep telling yourself that, boss. The first 3 weeks of the merger were a masterclass in controlled chaos. Not because things were going badly, they were actually going better than anyone had predicted. Our platforms integrated smoothly, with fewer technical hiccups than anticipated. Our teams meshed well, finding complementary strengths. Revenue projections were through the roof. Client meetings that had been impossible to secure before suddenly materialized. Adrian's name opened doors that had been locked to me for years. No, the chaos was entirely internal. Entirely about the fact that Adrian Westbrook was everywhere. In meetings, sitting across from me with his sleeves rolled up to his forearms. And why did I find that so distracting? Explaining market strategies with an intensity that was absolutely not attractive. In my office at random hours, appearing with food when he noticed I'd skipped lunch, or tea when I was stressed, or once, memorably, with a bottle of very expensive scotch when we'd lost a deal we'd been counting on. In the break room at midnight when I was working late, because apparently we both had insomnia and coped by working, and there was something dangerously intimate about being alone with him in the dark, quiet office while the rest of the city slept. You're going to burn out, he said one of those nights, finding me hunched over my laptop at 2 a.m., eyes burning, fingers cramping from typing. Says the man who's also here at 2 a.m. I've been doing this longer. I know my limits. And I don't? I looked up, ready to be annoyed, and found him standing closer than I'd expected. Close enough that I could see the shadow of stubble on his jaw, the tired circles under his eyes that meant he was pushing himself just as hard. I think you don't give yourself permission to rest, he said quietly. I think you believe if you stop moving, even for a moment, everything will fall apart. The accuracy of that statement stole my breath. How do you... I stopped, swallowed. How do you know that? Because I'm the same way. He reached past me, closed my laptop with a gentle but firm click. Sophia, you've been here for 19 hours. Go home. I need to finish this analysis. It'll still be here tomorrow. But the board meeting is Wednesday. And you'll be useless in that meeting if you're exhausted. His hand settled on my shoulder. Warm, heavy, grounding. The first time he'd really touched me since that handshake when we'd signed the merger papers. Come on, I'll walk you out. You're not my boss, Adrian. We're partners, remember? Equal. Then as your partner, as someone who cares about your well-being, I'm suggesting you need rest. Someone who cares about your well-being. The words hit different than they should have. I'll go home when I'm ready, I said, but my voice came out softer than I intended, lacking conviction. Stubborn. You say that like it's a flaw. It's not. His hand slid from my shoulder down my arm, slowly, deliberately, giving me time to pull away. I didn't. But you're still going home. Come on. He grabbed my coat from the back of my chair, held it open for me. It was such an old-fashioned gesture, so at odds with his modern, ruthless CEO image that I found myself slipping into it without argument. We rode the elevator down in silence. The building was empty, our footsteps echoing in the marble lobby. The night security guard nodded at us, and I wondered what he thought. If he'd noticed how many late nights Adrian and I had been keeping together. In the parking garage, Adrian walked me all the way to my car, my beat-up Honda Civic that looked pathetic next to his sleek Mercedes. Thank you. I said at my car door, fumbling with my keys. You're welcome. He paused, and when I looked up, he was standing close again. Too close. Close enough that I could smell his cologne, faded after a long day, but still there. Sophia. Yeah? But whatever he was going to say, he swallowed it. His jaw clenched, and I watched him physically pull himself back, rebuild whatever professional boundary he'd been about to cross. Drive safe, he said finally. You too. I watched him walk away toward his car and tried very hard not to notice how good he looked in the dim garage lighting. Tried not to think about how his hand had felt on my shoulder, my arm. Tried not to wonder what he'd been about to say. Failed spectacularly at all three. The problem with working closely with someone, with seeing them every single day, often for 12 or 14 hours at a stretch, is that you start to see past their armor. Adrian Westbrook, I discovered, was not just a corporate shark. He was funny in a dry, unexpected way that caught me off guard. He'd make these deadpan observations during meetings that would have me biting my lip to keep from laughing. Brilliant, like genuinely, intimidatingly smart. He could look at a problem I'd been wrestling with for days and see solutions I'd missed. Could spot patterns in data that seemed random to everyone else. Kind to our staff in ways that surprised me. He knew everyone's names, asked about their families, remembered details. When Priya's mother was diagnosed with cancer, he personally arranged for her to have the best oncologist in the city, and never mentioned it to anyone. I only found out because Priya told me, crying with gratitude. And he was protective of me in a way that should have annoyed me but didn't. When a venture capitalist talked over me in a meeting, literally interrupted me mid-sentence to direct his question to Adrian, Adrian shut him down so smoothly the man didn't realize he'd been eviscerated until it was over. Sophia was speaking, Adrian had said, voice cold as winter. And since she's the technical expert in this room, I'd suggest you listen when she talks. Or we can end this meeting now and you can explain to your partners why you lost a multi-million-dollar opportunity because you couldn't show basic respect. The man had apologized, stammered through it, face red, while I sat there trying not to look too satisfied. After the meeting, in the elevator, Adrian had looked at me and asked quietly, "Too much?" "No," I'd said. "Exactly enough, thank you." His smile had been soft, pleased. Always. Sophia. When I pulled an all-nighter before a major pitch to a Fortune 500 client, our biggest potential deal yet, Adrian showed up at 6 a.m. with breakfast and coffee. "How did you know I was here?" I asked, accepting the coffee gratefully. "I know you." He set down a bag from my favorite bakery. And I know this pitch is important to you. Thought you might need fuel. Inside the bag, my favorite breakfast sandwich, the chocolate croissant I only bought when I was stressed, and are these the lemon scones? I pulled one out, stared at it. They're always sold out. How did you? I called ahead, asked them to save some. He shrugged like it was nothing, but his ears were slightly pink. Eat. Then we'll run through your presentation. You don't have to. Sophia. He sat across from me, his own coffee in hand. Let me help you. Please. So I did. We spent 2 hours going over every slide, every talking point. He played devil's advocate, asked the hard questions the client would ask, pushed me to sharpen my arguments. By the time we walked into that meeting at 10, I was ready. More than ready. We landed the deal. 3-year contract, 7 figures annually with options for expansion. In the elevator afterward, high on victory and adrenaline, I threw my arms around Adrian without thinking. We did it, I said into his shoulder. Oh my God, we actually did it. His arms came around me slowly, carefully, like he was afraid I'd bolt. You did it. That pitch was all you. But you helped me prepare. I pulled back, looked up at him, and realized how close we were. How his hands were still on my waist. How his eyes had gone dark, fixed on my mouth. The elevator dinged, doors opened onto our floor. We stepped apart like we'd been burned. Good work, partner, Adrian said, voice rough. You too. We didn't talk about the hug, or the moment, or the way the air between us had felt charged with something dangerous. But I thought about it constantly. When tech blogs started calling me Westbrook's protege instead of his equal partner, Adrian personally called 3 editors to demand corrections. I found out when one of them published an apology, rare in tech journalism, with a revised article that properly credited me as co-CEO. You didn't have to do that, I told Adrian when I figured out he was behind it. Do what? He didn't look up from his laptop. Fight my battles. I can handle condescending tech bros. I know you can. I've watched you destroy them in meetings. He finally looked up, and there was something fierce in his expression. But you shouldn't have to constantly prove yourself. We're partners. That means when someone disrespects you, they disrespect our company, they disrespect me. I won't tolerate it. My heart did something complicated in my chest, something warm and frightening. Thank you, I said quietly. Always, Sophia. That word again. Always, like he meant it, like it was a promise. It was the company holiday party that changed everything. We'd rented out a rooftop venue downtown. Spectacular views of the city, open bar, good food. The whole team was there, plus key clients and investors. A celebration of our successful first quarter post-merger. I'd bought a new dress for the occasion. Nothing too fancy. I was still the CEO, still needed to be taken seriously, but it was black and fit well. And when I'd tried it on, Maya had wolf whistled and said, Adrian Westbrook is going to swallow his tongue. It's not for Adrian, I'd protested. Sure, honey. Whatever you say. Now, standing at the bar waiting for a drink, I felt eyes on me. Turned to find Adrian across the room, talking to an investor, but looking at me. His gaze traveled from my heels up my legs, over the dress, to my face. Slow. Deliberate. And when our eyes met, the heat in his expression made my breath catch. He excused himself from his conversation and crossed to me with purpose. Sophia. My name was rough in his mouth. You look professional, I suggested, aiming for light, casual. Stunning. He flagged down the bartender, ordered himself a scotch. That dress should be illegal in a work setting. It's a party, not a work setting. We're surrounded by employees and clients. It's definitely a work setting. He accepted his drink, took a sip, and I watched his throat move as he swallowed. Though I'm finding it very difficult to think about work right now. The air between us felt electric, dangerous. Adrian, Dance with me. What? Dance with me. He set down his drink, held out his hand. One dance. That's all I'm asking. I should have said no. Should have remembered we were partners, that this was complicated, that mixing business with anything else was a terrible idea. Instead, I took his hand. He led me to the makeshift dance floor where a few brave souls were already swaying to the music. The band was playing something slow, jazzy, intimate. Adrian pulled me close, one hand on my waist, the other cradling my hand against his chest. I could feel his heart beating, fast and strong. "This is a bad idea," I said quietly. "Probably the worst I've had in years. People are watching. Let them watch." His thumb traced slow circles on my waist, and I fought not to shiver. "I'm tired of pretending, Sophia." "Pretending what?" "That I don't think about you constantly. That I don't look for you in every room. That I don't—" He stopped himself, jaw clenching. "Don't what, Adrian?" His hand tightened on my waist. We'd stopped moving, just standing there in the middle of the dance floor while couples swayed around us. "That I don't want you," he said finally, voice low and rough. "That I haven't wanted you since the moment you pushed that folder back across your desk and told me your company wasn't for sale. That every late night we've spent working together, every moment we've been alone hasn't been torture." My heart was hammering so hard I was sure he could feel it. "We're business partners." "I know." "There's a 12-year age gap." "I'm aware." "If this goes wrong, it could destroy everything we've built." "I know that too." He cupped my face with his free hand, thumb brushing my cheekbone, and I stopped breathing. "But Sophia, I'm going insane trying to be professional around you. Trying to pretend I don't notice how you bite your lip when you're concentrating. How you always tuck your hair behind your left ear when you're nervous. How you light up when you solve a problem. Like you've just discovered something magical. I notice everything about you, and it's driving me crazy." "Adrian, tell me you don't feel it too," he said. "Tell me I'm imagining this thing between us, and I'll walk away. I'll be the perfect professional partner." "But Sophia—" His voice cracked slightly. "Tell me the truth." I looked up at him. This brilliant, complicated, infuriating man who'd somehow become the most important person in my life. This man who'd fought for me, believed in me, seen me in ways no one else ever had. And I told him the truth. "I can't tell you that," I whispered, "because I do feel it. I've been feeling it for weeks, and I've been trying so hard to ignore it, but—" He kissed me, right there, in the middle of the dance floor, in front of our entire company. It was soft at first. Tentative, testing. Like he was giving me a chance to pull away. But I didn't pull away. I kissed him back, and it was like falling and flying at the same time. Like standing in the eye of a hurricane and feeling perfectly, impossibly safe. His hand slid into my hair. My arms went around his neck. And for a moment, nothing else existed except this. His mouth on mine. His body against mine. 6 weeks of tension finally breaking like a dam. Someone whooped. Probably Marcus. We broke apart, both breathing hard. Around us, our team was clapping, laughing, clearly not surprised by this development at all. "Well," Adrian said, voice rough, "I guess we're not keeping this a secret." "Guess not." I was smiling despite myself. Despite the complications this would cause. Despite everything. "Your place or mine?" His eyes darkened. "Mine is closer." Adrian's penthouse was exactly what I'd expected. All floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture and expensive art. The view of the city was spectacular, lights stretching out like a carpet of stars. But I barely noticed any of it. The elevator opened directly into his apartment, and the second the doors closed behind us, Adrian's mouth was on mine again. Hungry, desperate, like he'd been holding himself back for months. Which I realized he had. We both had. "Sophia." He breathed against my lips, walking me backward toward what I assumed was his bedroom. "Tell me if you want to stop. Tell me if this is too fast. Don't stop, I said, and pulled him down for another kiss. We left a trail of clothes across his apartment. My heels kicked off in the hallway, his jacket on the floor, my dress unzipped and sliding down my shoulders as we stumbled through his bedroom door. He laid me down on his bed with surprising gentleness, hovered over me with those smoke-colored eyes that were nearly black now with want. "You're so beautiful," he said, trailing his fingers down my arm, across my collarbone, making me shiver. "I've imagined this so many times." "Have you?" My voice was breathless. God, yes. He kissed my neck, my shoulder, the curve of my breast. "Every time you walked into my office, every time you argued with me in meetings, every time you smiled at me like I'd said something clever. I wanted you so badly it hurt." His mouth moved lower, and I arched into his touch, fingers threading through his hair. "Adrian, tell me what you want," he murmured against my skin. "Tell me what you need." "You," I gasped. "I need you." He took his time undressing me like he was unwrapping something precious, kissed every inch of skin he revealed. By the time he finally moved over me, I was trembling with need. "Are you sure?" he asked, even now giving me an out. "I'm sure." I pulled him down, kissed him hard. "I'm very sure." Later, much later, I lay wrapped in his sheets, my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow from racing to steady. His fingers traced lazy patterns on my shoulder. Up and down, swirls and circles, like he was mapping me through touch. "What are you thinking?" he asked quietly. "That this is going to complicate everything." "Probably." "That our board is going to have opinions." "Definitely." "That the press is going to have a field day." "Without question." He tilted my chin up so I had to look at him. "Are you having regrets?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. About what this meant for our company, our partnership, our carefully constructed professional relationship. Then I looked at him. This man who'd seen me at my worst and my best, who'd fought for me, believed in me, challenged me. This man who'd made me want to be brave enough to risk everything. "No," I said. "No regrets. Are you?" His smile was soft, relieved. "Not even close." He kissed my forehead gently. "Though we should probably talk about how we're handling this publicly." "Meaning?" "Meaning I don't want to hide this, Sophia. I'm not interested in sneaking around, pretending we're just business partners when everyone in that room tonight saw us kiss. But I also don't want to make you uncomfortable or put you in a position where people question your credibility." "People are going to question it anyway," I said. "Young female CEO dating her older male business partner. They'll say I slept my way to the top, that you're taking advantage, that this is inappropriate. Let them say it. Anyone who knows you, who's seen you work, knows that's bullshit. And the board? We'll adjust. And if they don't, we'll handle it." He cupped my face in his hand. "I'm not letting you go, Sophia Chen. Business partner or not. The question is, are you okay with that?" I smiled, kissed him softly. "I'm more than okay with it." The next 3 months were a whirlwind. The board did have opinions, as predicted, particularly Patricia, who pulled me aside after our first meeting post-holiday party. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, concern evident in her expression. "Adrian Westbrook he's powerful, Sophia, and 12 years older. I just want to make sure you're not getting in over your head." "I appreciate the concern," I said, "but I know what I'm doing. Adrian and I are equals, in business and in this relationship. And if it ends badly, then we'll handle it professionally. But Patricia..." I met her eyes steadily. "I'm not some naive kid who's going to fall apart if things don't work out. I built this company. I negotiated an equal partnership with one of the most ruthless CEOs in tech. I can handle a relationship with him too." She'd studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, I trust you. Just Be careful. The press coverage was exactly as invasive and annoying as I'd anticipated. Headlines like Tech's hottest power couple and age gap romance in Silicon Valley, and my personal favorite, from rivals to lovers, the Technova merger story. Adrian handled it with practiced ease, issuing a brief statement through his PR team that our relationship was personal, our partnership was professional, and both were none of anyone's business. I loved him a little more for that. Because that was the thing I was slowly realizing. I was falling in love with Adrian Westbrook. Not because he was successful or handsome or good in bed, though he was definitely all three, but because of the small moments. The way he'd bring me tea when I was stressed without me having to ask. The way he'd defend me in meetings, even when I didn't need defending, just because he couldn't stand to see me disrespected. The way he'd text me random thoughts throughout the day like he couldn't stop thinking about me. The way he looked at me like I was the most fascinating person he'd ever met. 6 months into our relationship, Adrian took me to dinner at an absurdly expensive restaurant with a 3-month waiting list. "What's the occasion?" I asked, accepting a glass of wine. "Does there need to be an occasion for me to take my girlfriend to dinner?" "Girlfriend?" I smiled. That still sounds weird. "Would you prefer a business partner I'm sleeping with?" "Definitely not." He laughed, reached across the table to take my hand. His thumb traced circles on my palm, a gesture that had become familiar, comforting. "Actually," he said, "there is something I wanted to talk to you about." My heart skipped. That sounds ominous. Not ominous, just important. He took a breath. "Westbrook Industries has been offered an acquisition, a big one. Tech giant out of Seattle wants to buy us for—" He named a figure that made my eyes widen. "It would be the largest tech acquisition this year." My stomach dropped. "And you're considering it?" "I'm considering it," he confirmed. "But Sophia, here's the thing. The offer includes Technova. They want the whole company, Westbrook Industries and all its subsidiaries, which means your technology, your platform, everything you built. And you're asking my permission." "I'm asking what you want." His hand tightened on mine. "Because yes, technically we're equal partners and this decision affects both of us. But more than that, you're the woman I love. And I need to know if this is something you can live with." The woman I love. He'd never said it before. Not like that. Not so simply, so directly. "You love me," I said, voice soft with wonder. "I do." No hesitation. "I love you, Sophia. I love your brilliant mind and your stubborn streak and the way you light up when you solve a problem. I love how you never back down from a fight and how you care about our team and how you—" He stopped, smiled. "I just love you. All of you." Tears pricked my eyes. "I love you too. So much." "So." He brought my hand to his lips, kissed my knuckles gently. "Tell me what you want. If you want to take this acquisition, we take it. If you want to keep building what we've started, we turn it down. Whatever you choose, I'm with you." I thought about it, about what it would mean to sell. The money would be life-changing. Generational wealth, the kind that meant never worrying about anything again. It would validate everything I'd built, everything I'd sacrificed. But it would also mean giving up control, becoming a small part of something bigger. Potentially watching the technology I'd developed get absorbed into someone else's vision. "What do you want?" I asked. "Honestly, I want to keep building with you." He smiled ruefully. "I know that's probably not the financially smart choice. We'd be turning down a fortune. But Sophia, these last 6 months have been the best of my life. Working with you, building with you, creating something that's ours. I don't want to give that up. Not yet." "Not yet," I echoed. "But someday?" "Someday, maybe. When we've done everything we wanted to do. When we've built something so big and so successful that selling it feels like graduation, not giving up." He squeezed my hand. "But only if that's what you want too." I smiled, felt the decision settle into place with certainty. I want to keep building with you. I want to see how big we can make this, how much we can achieve together. And Adrian? I leaned forward, held his gaze. I want to do it with you. Not just as your business partner, but as your partner in everything. His smile was brilliant, relieved. So we're turning down the acquisition. We're turning down the acquisition. Our board is going to think we're insane. Probably. I grinned. But we've never been particularly good at doing what people expect, have we? No, he agreed. We really haven't. 1 year later, the Tech Innovation Awards were held in San Francisco, in a ballroom that held 1,000 people and cost more to rent for one night than my first apartment had cost for a year. Technova Westbrook Industries, we'd officially combined the names 6 months ago, was nominated in 3 categories. We won 2. I gave the acceptance speech for Best AI Innovation, thanking our team, our investors, and my incredible partner, both in business and in life, who believed in this technology even when everyone else said it was impossible. Adrian watched from the front row, and the pride in his eyes made my heart swell. Later, at the after-party, we stood on the balcony overlooking the city, and I thought about how far we'd come. From that first contentious meeting in my office to this, a multi-billion-dollar company, hundreds of employees, technology that was changing the industry, and more importantly, us. What are you thinking about? Adrian asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. How different my life is from a year ago. Better different or worse different? Definitely better. I leaned back against his chest. Though I never imagined I'd be standing here with you. No? When you walked into my office that day, I hated you. He laughed. I know. You made it very clear. You were so arrogant, so sure you could just buy my company. I was an idiot. You were. I turned in his arms, looked up at him. But you figured it out eventually. I had a good teacher. He kissed me softly. You know, I've been thinking. Dangerous. About us. About the future. My pulse quickened. What about it? He pulled back slightly, and I saw nervousness in his expression. Something I rarely saw from confident, controlled Adrian Westbrook. I think we should expand our partnership, he said. We just combined the company names. How much more expanded can we get? I'm not talking about the company. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a small velvet box. I'm talking about us. Oh. He opened the box, revealing a ring. Stunning, elegant with a diamond that caught the light and threw rainbows across the balcony. Sophia Chen, he said, and his voice was steady even though his hands were shaking slightly. You are the smartest, most stubborn, most incredible person I've ever met. You challenged me, changed me, made me want to be better. You're my partner in every sense of the word, and I can't imagine building a future with anyone else. So, he took a breath. Will you marry me? I stared at the ring. At him. At the future he was offering. A year ago, I would have said this was crazy. Too fast. Too complicated. But a year ago, I hadn't known what it was like to work beside someone who understood me completely. To be challenged and supported in equal measure. To be loved not despite my ambition, but because of it. Yes, I said, and my voice was steady and sure. Yes, I'll marry you. He slid the ring onto my finger. Perfect fit, of course, because Adrian was nothing if not thorough. And then he was kissing me, and I was kissing him back, and somewhere inside the party, people were probably noticing us through the windows, but I didn't care. I love you, he murmured against my lips. I love you too, even though you're 12 years older than me and incredibly annoying. Especially because I'm annoying. Especially because of that. We kissed again, and I thought about the merger that had brought us together. How it had seemed like a disaster at first, a necessary evil. How I'd fought so hard to maintain my independence, my control, my vision. How I'd learned that partnership, real partnership, didn't mean giving up those things. It meant finding someone who enhanced them, who made you braver, smarter, better. Adrian Westbrook had come into my life as an enemy, had become my business partner, had transformed into the love of my life. And together, we were building something extraordinary, not just a company, not just a relationship, but a future that was ours, built on equal ground, sustained by mutual respect, and fueled by a love that had started in a boardroom and grown into something neither of us could have predicted. Ready to go back inside? Adrian asked after a while, his arm around my waist, holding me close. In a minute. I looked out at the city, at the lights stretching to the horizon, at all the possibilities ahead. I just want to stay here for a moment. With you. Always with me, he said, and it wasn't a question. Always, I agreed. And I meant it, because that was what partnership meant, what love meant. Not losing yourself in someone else, but finding yourself more fully because of them. Adrian Westbrook had challenged me to be brave enough to merge our companies, and in doing so, I'd found the courage to merge our lives. It was the best decision I'd ever made.
Love the story? Smash that like button and subscribe for more.